Well, everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money color commentator. On today's show, the ways to pay for a college education. Part 3 of our series on college funding with financial advisor John McDonough of the College Funding Institute. Welcome to the third segment, John.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Listen, we're all over this today. We're talking about college education. I mean, there is nothing more important to parents that really have a heart for their children than to find them a quality education that everybody can afford and set them up for life. I mean, this is the name of the gig. Okay, so when we're talking about it, I want you to walk me through how are we supposed to pay for this? Because it seems to be really over our heads. It seems to be an overwhelming process.
Yeah, well, there's really only 5 ways we can pay for education. We can use our savings, which is yesterday's money. We can borrow money, which is tomorrow's money. And quite frankly, when we say the word student loans, people think we're saying a cuss word out there. We can get a scholarship, and that's what, unfortunately, most families are counting on is a scholarship. And we'll get into the statistics about that here in a second. Or you can go to a cheaper school or just not even go to school altogether. Those are really your only 5 options you have.
Well, let's say that most parents would probably have a kind of a bit of a hard sell of telling my kid, well, he's not going to go at all.
Yeah, that's tough, but it's reality because remember, this is a retirement issue. If you don't care about your retirement, then we can just blindly send our children to whatever school they get accepted to, right? But if we're really genuinely concerned about our retirement, this has to be a very adult financial conversation that we have to have with our children.
Okay, so am I hearing you say that sometimes college and retirement for the parent, these are in conflict?
Yes, but they're also in unison with one another.
If you can get a plan together.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. I want to talk about these things because if we don't talk about it, who will, right? So when I'm looking at this, when I'm looking at just the phrase 200,000, it seems overwhelming as a parent. Talk to me about 200,000, it's burning a hole in my pocket.
Well, let's just say that you have some money that maybe you inherited from grandma or grandpa or from your parents, right? Or maybe you've just been a diligent saver as an adult and you have money set aside for retirement. It's not in an IRA or a 401k or some type of qualified retirement plan, but it's in an account for your retirement. The federal formula, the Department of Education, has something called their Asset Protection Allowance. And we've seen dollar amounts as little as $10,000 cause families to miss out on or not be awarded between $500 to $2,000 of financial aid, depending on where it's positioned and whose name it's in. Imagine $200,000. The average cost for a state school is between $25,000 to $30,000. It takes the average child 4 to 5 years, a little bit longer than that, to get their bachelor's degree. 25,000 times 4 is 100,000. The average family has 2 kids. There's your $200,000 right there that you could blow through if you were just going to pay cash for school.
All right, so to me that seems overwhelming for the normal person. And you just told me, if I heard you right, $10,000 in savings could knock me out.
Yeah, well, not knock you out, but it could cause you to be under awarded in financial aid dollars.
Okay.
Right? So when you have assets that show up on your balance sheet, the way they position the free application for federal student aid, otherwise known as the FAFSA, the way they position the questions, there's about 130 questions on their form. They ask you how much money do you have in cash, checking, savings, money market, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, second properties, rental properties, vacation homes. Anything you have net equity in or you have a value, they're going to try to hold it against you for financial aid purposes and under award your child financial aid.
Okay, so and really on the FAFSA, we're still borrowing money.
Yeah, you're borrowing money from yourself potentially.
Yeah, so I mean, what's the difference? If I went to, I'm just curious as the consumer, FAFSA interest rate charge, and I go to Discover card, they are hitting my account all the time about college education. What's the spread between the interest rates?
Well, it varies. It really varies when we're talking about student loans. It varies based on the family's credit score, their FICO score. Every child, when you fill out the FAFSA, by the way, if you don't fill out the FAFSA, you can't get the federal loan. But every child can get the federal loan, and it's called the Stafford loan. And the Stafford loan can range between 0% to just shy of right now about 4%. And it's very cheap money, and it's in the student's name and the student's name alone. The problem with that source of money, there's only $5,500 available for the child's freshman year. And the average state school costs $25,000 to $30,000, and we can only get about $5,500 as a federal loan. Where's the rest of the money going to come from?
Well, where is it coming from?
Well, it depends on the family situation. It depends on how much savings they have, how much cash flow they have. It depends on what the student's SAT, ACT scores are, their class rank. Where do they fall? Is there any merit-based aid that school is good at giving? Are they generous with their money?
Let's say they have burned through their merit-based. They've already burned through their FAFSA 5,500.
Okay.
Now, I'm sitting there saying, okay, where do I have to take a loan. Where do I go? I am just a middle America here.
Yeah.
I'm too poor, right?
Yep.
I'm not poor enough,
Yep.
and I'm too affluent. Sounds like I'm stuck in the middle.
Well, on the next slide, if you go to it, really, if you're going to have to borrow money, would you rather get a tax deduction or not?
Well, I'm all over deduction.
Fixed rate or variable rate?
Probably fixed.
4.5 years, same as cash, or start paying it back instantly?
No, I'll take the.
Would you like to take one loan up front, or would you like to have to take a loan each and every semester that your child is in school? I mean, these are all of the things that we go into, and the reason why those statements are there is because those are all of the different types of loan programs that are out there for families. Not all loans are created equal, and you have to know how to play the game before you start playing the game.
Are all loans tax deductible?
Not all loans are tax deductible.
So that even there, it's an issue.
Correct.
Oh my gosh! All right, so I could have a fixed monthly payment or a variable increasing payment.
Yeah.
And I could select that, and that's going to make my tab less or
There
greater.
is a loan that parents need to not walk but run in the opposite direction when they get asked if they want to take it, and that is the Federal Parent Plus loan. The Federal Parent Plus loan is 100% in the parent's name. It's taken each and every semester. It has a variable rate. Right now, it's just shy of 8% variable rate. It's not tax deductible, and they only have 10 years to pay it back, and they have to start paying it back immediately.
If you compared that loan to maybe a HELOC loan, a home equity loan, have you done the math on this?
We, as often as we can, when there's equity inside of the home that we can potentially calculate, we're looking at the home equity line of credit. We're looking at a home equity refinance. We're looking at a cash out refinance. Because if you took the money from your equity, granted, it's not a suitable place for most people. But when we ask families, if you had never come to talk to us, if you never hired our firm, where would you have taken the money? Scholarships, number 1, savings, number 2, cash flow, number 3, 401k loan.
Oh my gosh.
And then home equity.
In that order?
In that order.
Wow.
And so what we're doing is we're helping them realize in a prudent, suitable arrangement of those finances, which is the best way to do it.
And there is a best practice.
There is a best practice.
Okay.
Now, every family's different, right? Because, like you said earlier, we can't keep up with the Joneses, but there is a best practice.
Well, I as a planner, this is why this is not a do-it-yourself activity. As a planner, you're walking us through the mechanics of once we have to go down this road of loans, we're looking at the best. Is it taxable, deductible, or not? What's the interest rate? I love that last part you had here about zero. Are there zero tax interest-free loans?
Yes, but they're still classified as loans, and most families won't even look at them because they're classified as loans.
Even though they're zero?
Even though they're zero.
So it's not costing you anything?
Nope.
And they're out there.
They're out there. You just have to know how to find them and what to do to get them.
This is all you do.
This is all I do.
This is
all day long.
All day long.
I save people's retirement when they have to send their kids to college.
I looked at this number when I first saw this slide deck, and I look at $245 billion are available in student aid.
Yeah.
And that's not all government, is it?
No, that's all sources.
All
so
sources.
that would be out-of-pocket costs. That would be scholarships. That would be federal loans. What percentage do you think comes in the form of scholarships?
5% maybe?
And you're a much educated guesser than most other people. Most people are 25, 30, 40%.
Sure.
3%.
3%.
3% of all student aid comes in the form of scholarships.
When I'm looking at private scholarships and I'm looking at all these dreams that we have, the odds are the vast majority of Americans are not going to get a grant, a scholarship.
Correct.
So they're going to have to come out of their pocket, their equity position in their home, their cash flow, their ongoing cash flow.
Their savings.
And they're going to have to look at different ways. I mean, I'm stunned that people don't know they can get a zero-cost loan and that they still say, oh, it's a loan, and they're not willing to look at that as a good thing.
Yeah, not all loans are created equal. But regarding the scholarships, what I would say is we absolutely want clients and families to research and try to get scholarships, but you should think of scholarships like going to Vegas or buying a lottery ticket. By the way, do you ever play the Powerball when it comes up?
Personally, no.
Well, I do, but I have this method. It's randomness that I'll wait till it gets to be 100 million, right? Because it's just not worth it if it's less than 100 million, right?
Wow.
Well, no, I'm joking, but that's my irrational mindset. Families need to understand just because a student fills out a college scholarship application does not guarantee them college scholarship money. You just filled out a form. They can award it to anybody for any reason whatsoever. There's no formula to who gets a college scholarship. Now, when it comes to grants, there's two types of grants. There's merit-based grants, and then there's need-based grants. Those tend to have a more rigid and defined formula to them, and that's where we want to find. Would you rather spend your money chasing 97% of the funds or spend your money chasing 3% of the funds?
I'm into the path of least resistance.
You bet.
Listen, before we leave the clearing, just remember, there's some people just go to cheaper schools, and they could also just not go at all.
Yeah, those are valid options. What parents need to understand is if this is done right, depending on how their income, their assets, their savings is positioned, the number of children they have, their expected family contribution could be equivalently the same cost at either a state school or a private school. So it actually could cost a family potentially more money to go to the state school than that expensive private school because that private school is more generous with their money. The other thing families need to constantly keep in mind is the most economical way to do this to this day, unless the child's going to get a full ride scholarship because they're a Rhodes Scholar or they're the quarterback of the football team, 2 years at the community college and then transfer to the university and finish the degree there. It's still the most economical way to do it for most families.
Well, listen, don't forget to watch our next segment on financial aid for college education, part 4 of our series on college funding. And keep in mind, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, or financial advisor. You've been watching Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game.